In today's video, we're going to be explaining what's going to go on with the market, what should you be investing in, when should you be selling it, and the sort of risks that are going to come with the market in the next week. So just before the video does start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch for the cheapest trading guides out there for just £4, €4, all free. With Amazon Prime, you'll receive daily trading and investing guides covering PlayStation, Xbox and PC with an array of methods covering all budgets. And I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million in multiple different FIFAs, and now for the last 4 years I've made 10 million coins in just the first month. So I've been absolutely pelted with questions on my stream about when should I sell, when should I buy, what should I put my money into, and so on and so on. So what I've gone and done is we're going to make a video covering basically all those sort of questions, which hopefully should help you guys out a load. Now, in this video, I'm going to be using a footbin, and I'm going to be using a very poorly drawn graph, but it will explain exactly what's been going on with the market and what should happen with the market between now and the 27th. And ladies and gentlemen, there is my very poorly drawn graph. Now, basically, what we can see is we've got the date at the bottom, if I'm going to get a pen, and then we've got the price of something on the side. So this right here is going to be the price, right? There we go, perfect. And this is going to be the date. Now, between each of these, let's call them humps as such, is going to be 24 hours. So you've got 24 hours there, and between these two is going to be 24 hours. Also, between the two bottom ones is also going to be 24 hours. Now, what basically has happened so far is that players yesterday became very expensive. This is because everyone went and panic bought players when they saw them rising. So let's say someone got up to 100k. Well, then what happened was the rate of people buying slowed down, but the rate of people packing them was the same, which meant the players basically went from 100k down to about 50k. This is an example of someone like Eafc. Then what happens is eventually people stop panic selling and they start rising. So Eafc is now up to 80k. And what's going to happen is later today they'll probably peak, unless we get something crazy and too many promos, at about 110. But that does not mean that that is over for Eafc. It's not 110 and he's going to stick that till to the 27th. Because what is a very consistent trend that happens on FIFA is players are very cheap in the morning and very expensive in the evening. That's because in the evening there's a higher demand to supply ratio of cards, and in the morning there's a higher supply to demand ratio because everyone's asleep and no one's playing FIFA, so no one's actively buying cards. In the evening everyone's finished work and whatever, and people are buying cards. So what's going to happen is a card that's, let's say, is 110k is now going to go back down to not as low as they were previously, especially in this example, probably something like 90k. But this means just because the card went down in price does not mean that the card is doomed. It's not going to go back up again. Because what they should then do is be even higher the next day. I would say maybe he gets up to, let's say, 115 to 120k. So basically all the way up until the 27th. So this trend should happen every single day. So on the 22nd now. So this is, let's say, the 22nd, the evening of the 22nd. This is going to be the morning of the 23rd, evening of the 23rd, morning of the 24th, evening of the 24th, morning of the 25th, evening of the 25th, and so on and so on, up until the 27th, and that's when I think players are going to go down. Once again, I can show you this happening right here with someone like the likes of Lamptey, if we can go and find him on the squad. Apologies about the video being a little bit slapdash. I don't have too much time. So a little bit strapped for time over the weekend with streaming. So if we look at the hourly trend right here, we can see that yesterday morning he was 25. He then went up to 47. He then went down to 31. So this is right here comparable by the card was cheap, it went up, but then it didn't go back down to a price as cheap. It didn't go back down to 25, it went up to 30. And now the card is back up to 40. And it's no, it's not going to be done today. I'd say it might get back up to 50. And then it'll go down again. And again, what we're going to see is we're going to see this trend. So there's two ways you can act upon this. One, you can be asked to sell players every single day around about 7 PM to 9 PM GMT. And then you're looking to go and buy the cards anywhere from about 5 AM to 7, 8 AM GMT. And you can do this every day for the next 5-6 days. Or, if you can't be asked for this, what you're basically going to do is you are just going to go and cash out like here. You're going to go and cash out after a few days of this trend. But what you're not going to do is panic every morning when you see the card sales gone down from what it was up in the evening. Because what would have happened is people would have seen the card was expensive, then it's down, and now they've panic sold. But now, in a few hours later, the card is already up like 20-30%. So you've got to make sure you're not falling for the panic, because again, this is a completely normal trend we see happen year in, year out. So you may wonder, okay, so what sort of cards am I looking to buy with this trend? Now the cards that should be affected the most are the cards that are being used the most. And the cards that are used the most are French players, Prem players who are over 10k, and the players who have very high demand to supply ratios are heroes. So that's going to give you guys a nice little example right here. Let's go with the likes of Darwin Núñez, if I can spell his name competently. So Darwin Núñez should again follow the exact same sort of trend as Lamptey. There we go, where he was 18k, he then went up to 30k, and then he went to 24k. And he's already rebounded there to 30k, and he should keep rebounding to something about 35. We're seeing once again the exact same trend where, again, he's not done rising yet, where the first drop wasn't as low as the second drop, but there still was really, really good money on it. And again, this works because he's a super demanded player. We can also go and pick a French player. Let's go with the likes of Saint Maxim, I'd imagine this works with. Now, I wouldn't do this with players under 10k, because if they're under 10k, it has showed a lack of demand. So players over 10k should have a way better trend. Same sort of thing, where he was 12k, went up to 25k, went down to 17k. So again, 17k is not even near as cheap as 12k, and now he's already rebounded 17 to 22. So he's already, not quite, but already looking very likely to hit a higher price than he was this morning. And once again, this is a trend I do expect to see every day. But one thing I will say is we won't see the extremes. We won't see them going 25 to 17. What we're more likely to see is them go up to 27 and back down to 21. So there's still money in it, but there's not as big of an extreme, because there was a lot of panic buying here and a lot of panic selling here, which I don't think you'll see to the same levels tonight. You can also do that with what can you also do? You can also do this obviously with the informers I showed you with Lamptey, but you can also do it with heroes, because heroes are relatively well-demanded players. Can I spell McMahon? We can. They're relatively well-demanded players, but these cards are in very low supply. Now, the one thing I will say is he wasn't necessarily selling for the big. He wasn't necessarily selling for this price right here, but he was 82k. He went up there to 177. I think he was selling for 130. He then went down here to 87. So he did get closer to his first drop, but he was only this for an hour, by the way. So he rebounded quite fast, and then he already rebounded from 87 to 120. So later tonight, I don't know if he'll quite hit 177, because I don't think he was actually selling for that. That's just what he was listed for. But he'll probably go to something maybe like 150, maybe 160 by later tonight. And then once again, he'll go back down again to the likes of maybe 100k, and then maybe next day rebound to, let's say, 160, and then he'll rebound, go back down to, let's say, 110, 120. So again, the rise and drop should be different. So the players that I do recommend picking up for this trend, either you're going to buy now and or buy in the morning and then go and sell on the 27th, or you're going to buy in the morning and sell in the evening every day, is French players over 10k, Premier League players over 10k, heroes who are new in the game, heroes who are in the Premier League, heroes who are French, just because these are the most demanded combos and have the lowest supply to demand. And I think that's about all she wrote. Now, when it comes to what about 27th onwards, is basically subjective on the card. So if we go and look at the likes of, I think I could probably look at the likes of Mbappe. It's an extreme example, but you get what I mean. Super expensive player, how do they react as of the release of the game? Now the release of the game last year was the 29th, so let's go and bring this back here. So bring this back here to the 29th, which was here. So the game came out and 1.6 million, and he only went down 50, so this isn't the best example. But because he was an expensive player, what he could do is he could counter any sort of pack supply. So he went there from 1.6 and then he went up there to 1.7. Again, he wasn't too promising 2 weeks later, so it's not like I recommend buying meta cards here, because there really wasn't enough of a rise unless you hit like the meta back four, like the likes of Mendy, Kimpembe, which is only really known kind of like 1 week in league in, because at the moment obviously there's so many meta centre backs, but you don't know the back four that everyone's using. So a little bit too cheap of a player for as an example, but you kind of get the gauge, where someone who was only 10k of Rodrigo, as soon as the game came out, he just dropped. I think a little rebound there for weekend league, but he just dropped and dropped and dropped. So I would say anything below 20, 30k especially, I will imagine is going to drop when the game comes out on the 29th. I would say that anything about 30 to maybe 70 You are playing with FLAIR a little bit, but they've got a higher chance of holding. And then anything about 100, 150 plus has a much better chance holding its value for the first week in League or two. The reason for this is obviously people get their coins from the first week in League, and they use these coins to buy only the top players, which means that even if there's a supply of the top players, there's an increase in demand because of the increased coins get. So reasons like icons and heroes probably won't drop for a few weeks, because people are just going to consistently keep getting coins and using these heroes in comparison to using other promo cards, because there's not enough promo cards to counter how good these heroes are. But that is going to wrap it up, and hopefully it answers a bunch of questions. Again, to put it politely, 27th I'd recommend selling players in the evening. You can gamble on the 28th, and if you've got top end heroes you can hold for a few weeks after that. But thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.